Aloha nerds, welcome back to the Salawag's White's Great Gut Reaction, where I watch things and react from the gut. Wow. Okay, I'm a month late, or almost a month late, in seeing Kevin Costner's film Horizon Chapter 1. And I gotta say, it was amazing. I was not initially interested in seeing this. I mean, I talk a lot about the good, the bad, and the ugly, but I haven't seen a lot of westerns. I'm not a big I've watched a handful of Clint Eastwood westerns, but that's not really the vast majority of westerns, or even all of the famous ones that are out there to be watched. I've missed a lot in that regard. So I think I was less interested in this until I actually saw on YouTube Bill Burr had a little movie review of this, and it was only 10 minutes long, but he was so excited about it, and he said that I didn't even realize this movie was 3 hours long, or that it was a part one. But basically, he said it was 3 hours that went by super fast, and it did. It actually did go by really quickly. And not only to add to that, before I had seen this review, I'd seen just the headline of the podcasts thumbnails, just the headline where people say, "Oh, it's very long," which I'm like, if this is long to you, you spend way too much time on social media and TikTok or something, because this movie really, really moved fast. I was surprised, and I don't mean in terms of there's constant action scenes. I don't think that's a real judgment of a movie moving quickly, but it is an action movie. Things continually are occurring. The story is moving right from the start. I don't want to spoil it too much, but there is a little bit of what we have going on. We have Native Americans versus American settlers, colonists, and colonizers. And so what we have is like these stories of survivors. We have the stories of people going out for revenge, and we have the Native American side, just a little bit of explaining them actually saying, hey, they're not supposed to be here. What is going on? This is, they keep pressing us and keep pushing us, and it's such an interesting perspective. I really, in a American education, it is exactly as they say in history books. You only hear about the people who win. And so, although we know that we took the land from Native Americans, we really don't know much more than that, right? If you just have the American educational system, you have just enough to make you mad about history, about slavery, and about colonization, but not enough to actually understand the mechanics of how it all occurred. And both prior to Americans showing up and, and all of that. Like, there's so much history that is unknown if you're an American. You're basically sitting on whatever news, media, and movies tell you, because the American educational system just makes you, just gives you enough information for you to be upset about things, but not actually to have a nuanced understanding. And with that being said, I really don't know. This is a gut reaction, right? So I haven't done my homework or anything. I don't know how accurate this is to anything, but I really thought it was just a fascinating look. And we do see Chinese immigrants here. We see some black people who don't seem to be slaves. It's not really clear what's going on, but so I'm not really sure what's going on. But either way, we're getting this very exciting, moving story. And what I really appreciate is that while we do have this revenge story for this town that gets attacked, amongst the small gang of people seeking revenge is a small boy who we see escape this small town's destruction, and we're kind of seeing him go through the throes and the conflict of what revenge should be and what it should look like, which is very interesting. And it takes literally, I think it's probably the 45-minute or an hour mark before we even see Kevin Costner. And he's sort of the main character, and he's sort of not. I think we kind of have a nice sort of collection of stories going on. One of them is one of the survivors of this town attack is or a couple of the survivors, is this mom played by Sienna Miller and her daughter, who narrowly escape their house burning down. And they have a very sweet story of being sort of rescued by soldiers and sort of I'm not sure if we're on the heels of war or what's going on exactly, because again, American history, and then that was all high school, so I don't remember any of it anyway. So bad me, bad ignorant American, bad. I'm Hawaiian though, Hawaiian and Native American on my mom's side. So how dare you? You! Anyway, uh, no, there's just a collection of really sweet stories, and like I said, this movie really just keeps moving, right from the start. And I'll only just spoil the beginning, just to get you in. Right from the beginning, we have this very cheesy looking moment where you see this little settler. He seems to be by himself, putting down sticks, and he's got the measuring thing, so he's trying to set up a little plot of land to grow vegetation. And then there's a little boy, and I think there's one more person, I can't remember who it is. But you realize that these people are just kind of the first settlers on this little piece of land. And then this cheesy music swells up and says Horizon, and I'm like, what is this gonna be? Because it's the cheesiest like music possible to begin this movie. And then the very next thing you see is Native Americans scoping them out. And then the very next thing you see is someone else coming to town, coming to this area, and he finds them dead. And you're like, oh shit. You know what I mean? And then the next thing you see is a town moving in and building and settling down on their first day. And that's when all that's when everything goes haywire. And what I like is like just that right there. That's all I need to tell you, that things just start and they keep going and they keep going and they keep going. And just fantastic casts. It's wonderful to see a movie where it's not just a bunch of models, you know what I mean, or the most attractive great actors you can find. It's great to see a film where the most signature thing about westerns is that it's always these people who have these very rough, tough faces, these faces that you can film in close up and you can see all the edges and wrinkles and the exhaustion of what it takes to live back then, because they don't have all the amenities we have today. They don't have Star Wars and all that. But speaking of Star Wars, like I said, when the action starts happening, and it's really just in this film, there's really just one major action sequence earlier in the movie, but when it happens, it feels like Star Wars for the Old West. I feel like this film is this wonderful combination of old school storytelling, where it is focused on the story, where it's nothing but characters and their interchanges between each other and their conflicts between each other that are very natural to whatever their situation is. That's what a film should be. But I also feel it's done in the new way of how we currently tell movies, which is just keep it moving, bro. Do not stop and stare. Stopping and staring is kind of against the rules of this movie. As I've said before in other reviews, every movie has its own rules, like every board game. And part of a movie, which is the moving tapestry, part of the movie experience is understanding what those rules are. And the rules are no stopping and staring, because if you stop and stare, you're going to find something or you're going to start something that you don't want to start. So this movie has a lot of staring, but it's never a good thing. It's always bad. Whenever someone's staring or someone's looking off, you got to be wondering what's going on. And it's not like a horror movie, but at the same time, what the characters are going through is pretty horrific at times. I know I've spoiled the movie in little tiny bits, but it really moved quickly. And I know this because I was just complaining to my sister about the current season of Game of Thrones. I thought season 1 of House of the Dragon. Season 1 of House of the Dragon booked it through that story. We see the little kid versions of the main two girls who are the main characters of the show. And then within 2 episodes, or within 3 episodes, they're both adults. And then within 3 more episodes, they're taking over for their fathers or whatever. Their responsibilities are growing so quickly. We're just booking it through time. And part of the story is that we're seeing the Game of Thrones kingdom in a time of peace. So that's, I guess, why we can skip time and just see the natural conflicts they would have. But season 2, we're just full on in Game of Thrones mode, but it is just slogging it. Like, we have just what I feel should be contained episodes by themselves. We've spread out across 5 episodes, a subplot for Lord Corlys meeting his bastard sons, who I forget that they're his bastard sons, because we just get one scene per episode of them meeting, awkwardly exchanging, and then walking away. I'm like, this... Okay, how many times? How many times can we just watch them awkwardly look at each other? You know, oh, you're giving them a job. Oh, we're not going to see him do the job, but you're just going to see him again later, and it's going to be awkward. It's going to be awkward exchange. It's awkward odd. And that's fine. That's one thing. You feel like you're seeing this for some reason, but then on the other hand, we have, you know, the Queen's husband losing his mind, talking to dead people, which is my least... The one thing I hate in television, except for Lost and Smallville, the one thing I hate in television, and Walking Dead did this too, I love Walking Dead, but when people talk to dead characters who are just in their head, I want to strangle the life out of the writers and ask them who they're talking to now. Because I'm just like, stop it! How many times can you just sort of reiterate a former scene as if it's kind of a flashback, if this is a conflict for how many times can you just, you know, verbalize a character's internal voice in a way that it just kind of comes off cheesy? You know what I mean? I would rather watch the actor literally talk to themselves, because it just annoys me. It feels like the show stops dead just so you can talk to a guy who is either might be dead or is dead. And you know, Zack Snyder does this as well in his Justice League trilogy, and I just hate it. I hate it every time. I don't feel like it really is giving us anything. I think if you're gonna do it, have them interact with a flashback. Have it be something a little bit more creative, because I am so done, and it's so boring. It's so boring in this season. Watching this actor who I didn't really know before this movie. I know he's a Doctor Who, but I didn't know him, and I just, season 1 made me go, this dude kicks ass. And season 2 is like, even the actor seems like he's sick of playing these scenes. I'm like, will you stop putting these one talking to a dead person scenes in every episode? Just put it in one episode. Just give me all the awkward nods in one episode and get somewhere. Give me all the awkward dead person scenes in one episode and have it move somewhere. Because I can't stand this boring crap. Stop having your characters talk to dead people. I just can't take it anymore. It's so boring, and it just feels like you're wasting time. Oh my God. And to that I say, writers of Game of Thrones, I do love your work, but watch Horizon. Watch Horizon. Look how the story just keeps moving. You know, Jenna Malone is in this film, and her story starts right away. You don't even get any backstory. You just get into what she's doing, and I'll just say there's gunfire and running. But I love Jenna Malone, all the way back to seeing Donnie Darko. Whenever she shows up in a movie, and that's what this cast is full of, actors who I love seeing pop up in movies. Like, I don't follow actors, I follow directors, but whenever I see an actor, I'm like, oh, you're in something else that I like. So many, Jeff Fahey, Nestor Carbonell from Lost, Jesus from The Walking Dead. Even though I was okay with him as Jesus, it's not his fault. I just thought the character was okay. And like, really, you have to have a Jesus? Like, can you at least make him Mexican? This is so boring of a concept. I'm sorry. I just thought that was boring. Even though he was kind of an exciting character, like the actor pulled it off, but I was like, oh, this comes off a little bit cringy to me. But what I love is, his character and his wife are part of these new settlers that are coming into the movie. They don't know that they're walking into danger, but they got a cute little story. Jeff Fahey is scary. He's part of the Revenge crew. Um, Man, so many actors. There's actor Will Patton appears in this film. Luke Wilson, so many great actors. All of the Native American cast. I don't know or recognize them. Maybe I do know some of them and I don't realize it, but they were fantastic. This Every single cast member had a great face, but also just had a great quality. You know what I mean? And the way they're shot. There's a particular scene between the Native American chief and I think it's his grandson. But even though it's a very short piece of dialogue, just the way it's shot, the way it captures their emotion is just, it's one of a handful of great little, not extreme emotional scenes, but really beautiful, subtle emotional scenes that is strudled throughout this movie. Abby Lee from frickin' Mad Max Fury Road is in this. I didn't even remember her name. I just remember thinking how great she was in that movie. All the brides in that movie were fantastic, but damn, I was like, ooh, I like this one a lot. And she's again playing, in this movie, she's playing a prostitute who nobody likes, which I find hilarious. All the humor in this movie is fantastic. There is a lot of humor in this movie. It's surprisingly funny, and you just gotta watch how the characters interact once all the drama's over. There's a lot of great, adorable humor, specifically around Abby Lee's character, who, if you watch the trailer, she connects with Kevin Costner in the movie, and they get tied up in their own situation. It's so good. And Kevin Costner's part, which is just it's in some way it's going to collide with the settlers. Somehow all these stories are going to collide, and basically the end of the movie hints at how that collision could happen. And then and Bill Burr called it out, and it's the same thing that happened at the end of Back to the Future 2. Where you get this whole preview of Back to the Future 3. The ending of Chapter 1 ends with but it's a little bit awkwardly put in there, but the ending of Horizon ends with a little preview for Chapter 2. And it looks really exciting and fun. I did read somewhere that they pulled Horizon 2 out of theater. I'm like, no, put that back in. This is great. I mean, if you want to put it next year so we have a little bit more time to thirst for it, that's fine. But I say put that back in. I think the word of mouth will get around inevitably that this is an awesome flick. And I haven't even gotten into spoilers. I just really enjoyed this film. Man, and Jenna Malone is not in this movie enough, I gotta say. I hope she's in part 2. They leave her ending a little bit ambiguous, so you don't know what's going on, but I'm really hoping she's in part 2. I can't remember if she was part of the clip show at the end, but it was so fast. They were doing so many different things, but really beautiful performances. And Sam Worthington's in it. He's part of the soldiers that are looking out for the mother and her daughter, and that whole family, great actors, and their friends. Just fantastic actors. Even for some of them, what little time on screen they have because they're part of the big attack, they're great. And I just couldn't get over in the first 25-30 minutes of this movie. I'm like, whoa, I really feel like I'm in another time period. Just the faces that they picked, I feel like, and I know it's the costumes and makeup too, and obviously the production design. But the faces that they picked, I just feel like I'm looking at people from old photographs of the West. The just everything about their quality, the way they carry themselves, and again, the mother and the daughter were just fantastic. And I'm telling you, Hollywood, put Chapter 2 out. I don't care what you got to do. If it's got to be a more limited run, put it out. I think maybe put chapter 1 out on streaming a little earlier. Whatever you got to do, but get chapter 2 out, because I really think this is a great film. It's got all the great stuff in it, and it books it. I think this movie books it. Like, we're not sitting around watching characters just be contemplative. I think that's another boring thing that a lot of modern day filmmakers do. I think they think that having touching character moments is storytelling. It is storytelling, but it's still got to be a part of the story. Like I said, House of the Dragon season 2 has a lot. Oh my god! If you can hear me over that, that's cool. House of the Dragon season 2 just has a lot of repetitive scenes of characters nodding at each other or having dialogue that is their internal conflict, but it's just redundant because we've already seen this conflict in season 1, and what they're showing us in season 2 is not moving the character forward in any kind of way. Especially if he's just committed to staying the same, it's not doing anything for his movement. I'm sure they'll pay it off, but good God, at least make it one episode. It's just, I cannot do that. What I like about this movie is just, this movie should be titled No Time Wasted, because every single scene, characters are doing something. And I'll spoil one more scene, and it is a scene with Jesus from Walking Dead and his wife. They're part of the Luke Wilson group of settlers who don't know they're riding into doom. And there's a scene, you see all the other settlers in this caravan, this giant group of people riding toward Horizon. Horizon is this plot of land that's on the Native American land where all the drama starts. And when you see everyone stop and they're working on their wagons and everyone's helping each other, you just see this cute little adorable English couple sitting and enjoying the sun and reading. And Luke Wilson comes up and starts kicking Jesus in the feet and gets him to stand up and say, "Hey, look, you're a man. You see other men working, you go help out. You are not here to just chill out in the sun." And even there was a moment earlier where they didn't know they were being rude, but they were being rude to another family. And you see they're very posh and they're used to relaxing and blah blah blah, and they look like they're out of Jane's family from Tarzan. But it was just such a great scene, and I think it's a very good scene for young people to see. I do feel like, and this has occurred with me as well, especially when I was younger, we're growing up in this technology age, and it's made us all very lazy. We're waiting for everyone to do things for us. We're waiting for everyone to solve our problems for us. Michael Rooker, also from The Walking Dead, he was in this. He had a great little part too. It was not a super small part, but it was a relatively smaller part, and his scenes were fantastic. It was nice to see him, having grown up with Michael Rooker as sort of the bad guy in so many movies, and the movie that got me to know his name was James Gunn's Slither. I love that flick, and he's technically the bad guy in that movie, but I think this is probably my favorite little role he's done, because he's such a different character. He's one of the soldiers, but he has a lot of heart, and especially a scene that happens later on in the movie involving an old lady in a bed. It's not sexual, but it's funny. It's really funny. It's one of the better scenes in the movie. And yeah, I was just, man, there's so many great talents in this film. It's hard to not celebrate everybody. There's a fantastic scene in Horizon where there is a duel, and again, it's what starts off Kevin Costner's part of the story. It's even in the trailer anyway, but it's so good. It's the build up to it's great, and then the shootout is great. Just like although most of the action in this movie is quite short, it's still great. It's Western. In Westerns, it's all about the anticipation to the action. It's not about prolonged action sequences. Anyway, I can't really talk about this movie more without spoiling it. So that was as spoiler-free as I could get. Go see Horizon if you can. If you have never seen a Western before, I think this is a great place to start. And if you have seen Westerns before, I think you'll totally like it. And like me, I was not even interested until Bill Burr. He was just freaking out about it. And just the way he described how he liked the movie, I thought, okay, I think, I'm not the same as Bill Burr. I don't even know the guy. But from the way he described it, maybe we have a similar sensibility about how we like our films. And just the fact that he said it was 3 hours that went by like that, and I'm like, look, he's an older guy, so he's used to older movies that actually are slow, but they're never slow for the sake of being slow. I think today's time, filmmakers drag their feet to fill in the time. But back in the day, movies were slower because that was just the pace at which the story needed to be told. Some movies were just freaking slow. But this movie is not slow. It is literally every scene something is occurring. And if you can stay away from your cell phone for 5 minutes, you might actually have a great time. So thank you very much for watching this review. Please go see Horizon. Make up your own mind. Let me know if you liked it. I'm just curious. Did you like it? Did it feel fast to you? Did you see the Bill Burr review as well? And yeah. Go see it. Let me know what you think. Aloha. Okay, did everyone who hasn't seen the movie left the room? Damn, I love that scene with Abby Lee, and she's just hustling so hard to get Kevin Costner's attention. She's hustling so hard for some of that money. And you see the little shop worker who's taking down Kevin Costner's letter is just so irritated with her, and she's telling Kevin Costner he doesn't write that good. But and it hints to me like, well, if she knows this, she must be able to read and write. It's so, and that actually, even though they never bring it up, and Kevin Costner doesn't bother asking her. I was like, this has got to be important. Maybe Kevin Costner's going to depend on this later. But it's really cool that actually it does pay off. In the very last scenes, I couldn't talk about this spoiler free, but we have these Horizon posters everywhere. This promise of hope for people to go to, where everyone's just being swindled by whoever this guy is, who's selling all these people this land that, all these groups of settlers just walking to their deaths. They don't even know it because of some guy just selling everybody land that's not theirs anyway. But I love how, and actually that kind of reminds me of Watchmen. Watchmen has the posters of Who Watches the Watchmen. Horizon has the posters of Horizon, which is a completely false promise, which is a huge thematic aspect of this movie, that so many people are dying over a false promise and over ignorance. They just don't know. They don't know what the Native Americans are up to, and they don't even know that they shouldn't even be there to begin with. And it's a testament to Kevin Costner's honesty about the American condition. You learn this information only after the town is destroyed, that, hey, survivors, you were not supposed to be on this land anyway. We cannot defend you here. Oh, shit. So that's what starts off this whole tale of the survivors trying to survive and the soldiers trying to make it the best they possibly can for them. And we have the conflicts amongst the Native Americans and then we have the conflicts amongst the small group of people who choose to go out and get their revenge on the Native Americans. Like, everyone kind of has these little conflicts because you realize that within each group there are people who don't agree with things and don't agree with the choices that they're making. I really love the scene when Luke Wilson kicks Jesus from the Walking Dead's feet and makes him work for his living. Like I said in the the spoiler-free section, we have this conflict between the Native American, the very group that attacks our settlers in the beginning of the movie, where the chief is saying, "You should not have done that. That's not our way." And then the young man he's talking to who started this is saying, "Well, they killed my father and he was a war chief, and that's also not our way to allow that to be. And they're still on our land. This is supposed to be our land, and I am just defending what's ours." And the chief warns them, "Look, you kill them, more will come, and more will come, and eventually they'll come here and take out the rest of us." And it's sort of the cry for peace is made. And that's something, and again, I don't know if this conflict actually exists in history, but it was just nice to see. I'm like, okay, like, chances are there probably were these conversations. And there's just this beautiful editing when some of the Native Americans are split off from the group that attacked the town because of their conflict. So they sort of part ways, and one's going to go keep doing what they're doing, hunting anybody who comes into their land. And at the same time, the revenge people are setting off. And then at the same time, the survivors are just trying to catch their breath. And there's this beautiful editing there's this beautiful editing moment between one woman who's like watching her brother or something, or her son, go away to get revenge, and then it cuts to a Native American woman looking back at her group as her little group is going to go and keep protecting the land. And it's just this really, I don't know, it's just this great energy. This is really perfectly edited film, really well written, really well directed. And it's just a clash of cultures, a total clash of ways of thinking. Because what one person does that's savage, another person does that they don't think is savage, is also savage. And that this movie completely brings up. When it comes to our little revenge gang, which is actually mostly bounty hunters. That's what I thought was crazy. It took me a minute to figure out, because we're only introduced to a couple of them at first, and I didn't quite understand what was going on. But once we got to that tavern scene, where there's a guy trying to trade with a Native American something for his dead animal that he brought, and this is with the little boy, and the bounty hunters try to get him to kill this. He's just a random guy. He has nothing to do with what happened to them. And they're just trying to collect some bounty. They don't even care. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter to them what life they have to take, as long as they're getting some money out of what they're doing. And, that kind of heartlessness it's the same exact cruel heartlessness that is sending all these settlers to Horizon, which is a land that doesn't really exist and can't be defended properly by the American soldiers, or by the settler soldiers. Which is what they explained to them, like, we can't defend this area, so that's why we're not here. But this, it's always, I think, America's biggest problem and the world's biggest problem is exactly this. Like, eventually, although the little kid doesn't kill that Native American in the tavern, he does later participate in the savage killing of a completely unrelated settlement of Native Americans, just because the bounty hunters want to make some cash. And so, and what I like is that the reason he's a boy is for multiple reasons. He's not just a young boy because we need to fit a kid in here somewhere. He's a young boy because his thirst for revenge put him with this group. But he's finding that he doesn't like what revenge actually looks like, or at least what these bounty hunters are trying to convince him to do. They're trying to make him be racist really for money. It's not even because they personally are racist. They just know if we kill this guy, we'll get some cash off of him. And to me, that means they would do this to anybody. And they prove it when one of their own doesn't tie up a horse and gets them exposed to the very group. And he's like, well, screw it. You obviously are not good enough to run with us. So, blam, blam, you're not slowing us down anymore. And we don't have to give you part of our share. And it's just something that there is a bloodthirsty greed that goes beyond racism, that actually stirs up racism, that actually stirs all of us to fight each other. And this boy is getting the opportunity to see that firsthand and to decide for himself what he actually wants. And although this part 1 chapter does not give him the decision yet, he's still kind of reckoning. What I think is beautiful is that you're seeing him witness the same unnecessary savage brutality happen to a group of Native Americans that happened to his own town, and he recognizes the hypocrisy, the cruelty, and what is wrong in it. You know, he's like, I would not do this. These are not the people that hurt me anyway, so this is not right, and doesn't sit well with him. So I think that's what's beautiful about this movie, is that it does address the nuance within each one of us that is capable of having it. You know, some of us are led too much by honor and revenge and the need for blood, like the Native American who lost his father. And some of us are pure psychopaths who just are greedy, like the bounty hunters. And they don't care about life. It means nothing to them. Money and getting what they want is what means something to them. And, you know, they'll say whatever they have to whoever they have to say it to get what they want. And it's that very psychotic greed that Mr. Pickering, what I find interesting is no one at any point in this movie decides to go find out who Pickering is and tell him to stop selling this land because they can't defend it. I think that's the one gaffe I would give the movie, is like, don't you want to send someone to stop this guy? Because he's clearly making money right now and sending people to their deaths. Do you want to do something about this? Maybe they'll do that in part 2. I don't know. But again, that's exactly, you know, the greed of that man, that he knows he's sending people to land they shouldn't be going on. And he's got to know by now that people have been dying on it. He should have known ahead of time, because it's not land they're supposed to be selling. But that's what's happening. Like, we're just watching people needlessly die, be driven to kill each other, all over because of one person or a small group of people's selective greed. You know what I mean? I was watching this interesting clip of a politician asking some executive a question about his company's deficit. He's like, and she asks him, it starts off with her saying, you can manage a $30,000 a month salary, but you can't manage a $500 a month deficit? And then she goes on to explain that his employee, I think he's a bank executive, his employee, a bank teller, works for $16.50 an hour, which if she has kids, she pays all the necessary bills, and she pays for a car and all this, she's in a negative deficit every single year. Every single month, every single year. A situation I found myself in this exact year, when last year I was working 2 jobs and financially I was doing okay. And then I decided to quit one of those jobs, and at first I was paying my bills just fine, but then very quickly I was behind on my money and I needed to use my credit card, and I've just been in hell financially since then. And that's exactly what this woman was talking about. And it just begs the question, you know, I saw another video talking about people being afraid to raise minimum wages. It's like, why should an executive make such fat amounts of cash and their employees cannot break even. Why is it that we have this systematically corrupt system that really it sucks the blood out of everybody? And granted, some people are getting hurt more than others, but it is sucking the blood out of everyone. Kevin Costner doesn't just sit and wait for that blonde-haired creepy dude to go into the house and start shooting. He realizes, okay, something bad is happening here. This guy's clearly threatening me, and he's on duty the minute he realizes it. And he helps Abby Lee and that kid out instantly without having to be asked for anything. He knows that something needs to be done, and he does it. Thank you for watching, if you got this far. And aloha, yo. You know? Go see Horizon if you haven't seen it and you for some reason sat through this part. Fucking watch that movie. It's fucking good. And Hollywood, put Horizon 2 up. I want to watch it. Damn it. I'm ready. I'm ready for Horizon Part 2. It sounds so good. And even without the deeper layers, it's just a really good movie. Alright. I can't wait to see what happens. I hope they don't kill the chief and the people who stayed in the hills, because, damn, they seem like nice people. Anyway, aloha. Watch the movie. Goodbye. For now.